Hello, everybody. Hi. Oh, I'm so excited. It's Wednesday night, and we have our weekly broadcast of Food Addiction Reset TV. Now, I am so excited about this for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is that people learn so much from TV. We're used to getting a lot of signaling about what we should be doing from television. If we get our signaling from commercial television, it's all about buying something. So commercial television is about creating anxiety so that you will buy something. They have a lot of anxious programming. They use people who are underweight to trigger anxiety about your weight. It's just a racket. So I feel like Food Addiction Reset TV is fighting back on the same grounds that commercial television fights to give us food addiction. In this program, we fight to help you get out of food addiction. So the focus of this show, Hidden in Plain Sight, Food Addiction, is media. What does media do that encourages food addiction? And what does media not do that encourages food addiction? So we have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to take the show in 4 segments. So first, we're going to talk about an article in the New York Times that claims to tell us why we binge eat at night. And I know all the food addicts who are watching this, we know why we binge eat at night. It's so nobody will see us. It's because the cravings are out of control by the end of the day. And I'm going to explain a little bit about what we can do to prevent binge eating at night. We binge eat at night because we're home. Research shows that when we binge eat at home. So there are a lot of reasons that we binge eat at night, and not very many of them were covered in this New York Times article. So we're going to have a little fun. Okay, I know. We poke fun at these media outlets. We poke fun at these writers who don't have a clue. And we also kind of narrow our eyes a little bit and we ask, okay, who advertises at these media outlets? And are these media outlets deliberately ignoring the role of addictive processed foods in these behaviors that they write about? So our first covered article is going to be from the New York Times. By the way, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and we are posting these at our own website, Food Addiction Reset. So please leave comments below. There are places to comment for you. And this will stay up at Facebook. So this is a free program. You can come back to it and watch it at Facebook anytime you like. But always leave us a comment. We like this format because it's interactive, because we can hear from you. We're very interested in hearing from you and engaging with you. This is not like commercial television where they're just dumping things on us. This is really a back and forth, and we love it for that reason. Now, when our next article that we're going to talk about appeared in a UK paper, and I want all of our UK listeners to know that we now reach the UK, the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. So we have added features to our home addiction reset program. Let me just get that right. So that's the Home Addiction Reset Program. That's our HARP. And we have a HARP coming up next week, which I also would like to talk about. So we have added 2 live video chats to our HARP program every day, 7 days a week. In the United States, they occur at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's East Coast time. So you can just count backwards your time from the East Coast. And then in the UK, they're at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and 9 p.m. at night. So for many years, we have not had really a program that could reach the UK because our events were too late. And so they were at like 1 o'clock in the morning UK time. And yes, our daily conference call will be too late for the United Kingdom, but these daily video chats are now within reach, 4 in the afternoon and 9 in the evening for you. They're not recorded typically, although I think we will start to record some of them because not everybody can reach us at that time. Pacific Coast time, that's the other side of the United States. It's at 8 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. So I am so excited that we now reach the United Kingdom with our home addiction reset program. You guys can sign up for it now. We are truly international. We've had Australia with us for all this time, and so we've reached Australia all this time. But now we're reaching the United Kingdom, and I'm so excited about that. So you don't have to suffer anymore in the UK. I've seen your comments in our food addiction education Facebook group. I've seen your despair. I've seen your bewilderment about what to do. And until we added these features to our HARP program, my heart was just breaking for you. But now I can reach out to you. Now, these twice daily video chats will go on all year round. So we will have particular content during our HARP week, which is the first week of the month, that will get you going. So we will be talking about basics in those twice daily video chats. And because we're on so much and I'm on with you, I'm there. Because we're on so much, we're able to break down the process of how do you get started into really easy steps. And we don't want you to like come in on the first day and already know how to make your food. That would be like going to a language class and thinking, well, I really ought to be able to speak this foreign language on the first day. Well, no, we don't believe that. We think that managing food addiction requires a really extensive skill set. So we're going to take that slowly and we're going to celebrate every little bit with you. So that's why these twice daily video chats for the HARP program. And then they continue on in the ARC. So the daily ARC is our daily addiction reset community. And that's where we have those twice daily video chats going on after the HARP group. So I am so excited for our UK viewers that we can now really, really help you. What we're doing here is so cutting edge. You guys know I wrote the textbook. Sheila's going to put up the link to the textbook, Processed Food Addiction, which is available in hardcover and in Kindle at Amazon. So the Kindle edition is only $40, which is ridiculous for a textbook. I'm so grateful to Amazon for lowering the price there. So anybody around the world can now read in detail about all the research showing how food addiction develops and what to do about it. You can figure out how severe your case is from the assessment section of the textbook. You can learn about how you got it, and you can get really good science about what to do about it. So you don't have to rely on somebody's amateur opinion anymore. You can get the truth for yourself in the textbook. And Sheila's putting up the link to the textbook right now. Okay, so we're going to talk about an article which appeared in a UK paper, and I'm going to say a lot of praiseworthy things about this UK community that was covered in it. And then we're going to talk about an article from Money Magazine. Money Magazine is owned by Time Magazine, and you are going to see how devious these media outlets are in terms of how they promote food addiction under our very noses without us even knowing it. But now, because you're watching this program, you are going to be so smart. You are going to be well educated. You are going to know how to read media with an educated eye. You're going to know what to skip over, and you're going to be able to laugh. So you will look at these articles and you will say, oh man, I know what this article is really about. It's really about provoking me into cravings. So we're going to have a good time with that one. And then we're going to talk about the research that's missing in action. And I'm going to talk about a very serious study that came out of France. I will say that once again, I'm going to praise one U.S. media outlet. So when I wrote about this in our newsletter, I said, nobody in the U.S. has covered this. In fact, the newsletter is not yet out, but the blog is up. If you want to read more about what I've talked about tonight, go to www.foodaddictionreset and click on the blog. That's a public blog. Anybody can go there and read that. So I'm really excited that I am going to have to correct myself because USA Today did cover this study. I think it was yesterday. So once again, our UK friends, the UK media was all over this a week ago. I think it came out a week ago. So they covered it. It was a French study. They covered it. They did a great job. And I was just appalled that the US media outlets didn't cover it. But now I get to eat my words, so to speak. Okay, so I can see if you post at the Facebook. So we're on the Facebook page, Food Addiction Reset Community -ARC, A-R-C, and I can see your comments. So if you have a question while I'm talking, just type it in and it will show up on my screen and I will stop and I will answer it. Okay, so let's get on to this New York Times article. New York Times helped us understand, because of a new study, the New York Times was helping us understand night binging. Now, I'm going to try not to laugh. So here's how they set up the study. First of all, they gave the study participants a liquid meal. Now, liquid meals, unless they're 100% protein, well, even if they're 100% protein, they're addictive. So if there are those protein meals, meal replacements that are all high in protein, well, you're not getting enough carb. And so you're starving because every cell in the body runs on glucose. And what you really want in order to recover from processed food addiction, you want nice, steady glucose in your bloodstream, so that every time a cell goes out to your bloodstream to get some glucose or glycagon, it's there. Now, that is security. If every cell knows that every time they go out to the bloodstream, there's going to be fuel, because every cell has its own power plant, the mitochondria. So every cell needs to go out to the bloodstream and take in glucose or glycagon. Okay, so when you have a protein-only meal, you don't have glucose in your system. You didn't take in any carbohydrate, and now you're starving. Now the signal to your brain is, oh my goodness, there's not enough food out here. We need to start some craving activity so that we will motivate our human to go and look for food. Okay, so then they subjected their study participants to a period of starvation. Like, hello, you don't think you're going to overeat after a period of starvation? Yes, you will. And that is in the research. And that is why it's so ironic to have this wave of intermittent fasting. People just don't understand that will make food addiction worse. It's just so easy to get the common sense part of that if you don't eat, your survival instincts are going to say, go get food, go get food. And of course, most of the food available in our culture is highly addictive. So your body will run you. Your body will overcome all this decision making in the frontal lobe and it will run you. Okay, so now they've given the study participants a liquid meal and now they've starved them. Now they stress them out. These poor people. Man, I don't know. I would not have signed up for that study. I'm going to get a liquid meal, which is a form of starvation. Then I'm going to be really subjected to starvation. And then I'm going to be stressed. So I do have to tell you that these studies must be registered with an ethics board. And they do have to be reviewed for ethics. So it's kind of like astonishing that this one got approved. So then of course, they binged. These poor people, they binged. And the study conductors, the researchers, took samples. So they took samples. They took samples of their hormone function. But when you have food addiction, your hormones are all over the place. They are not behaving at all. You have not enough satiation hormones and you have too many hungry hormones. And that's really pretty well established. They're out of whack. So these researchers took hormone samples and they said, oh, now we know why there's night binging. Because look, these hormones are out of whack. I was like, no kidding. And then they went on to say, well, and the other thing about binging at night, really late at night, is there are no distractions. So that's how they decided the binging takes place. So if you read this article, you would be, calling your hormone therapist, your endocrinologist, and making an appointment. When in fact, that is so misleading. I am going to tell you why binging takes place at night. And it is simply because the way food consumption is structured in the United States, we build up cravings during the day. They build and build and build and build until in the evening we lose control. Because if you have enough craving activity going on, if you have enough dopamine release going on, your frontal lobe will stop working. And your frontal lobe is where the brakes are. Your frontal lobe is where the decision making is, the restraint, it's where memory is, it's where learning is. All of those systems go offline when you have a really major craving. So let's talk about how do cravings build up through the day. Well, one great way is to have either no breakfast or an out of balance breakfast. So what is an out of balance breakfast? An out of balance breakfast does not have enough protein in it. And it might have sweetener in it. So let's do two different issues. Out of balance means there's not enough protein in it. Research shows that the more protein you have in your breakfast, to a reasonable point, the less cravings you will have during the day and the less you will eat during the day. So the food plan that we use at the Addiction Reset community has a lot of protein in it. I learned that from Kay Shepherd 22 years ago, and it hasn't changed. My body hasn't changed in 22 years. So our food plan calls for 9 ounces of plant protein or 6 ounces of animal protein. And then we have 6 ounces of an unrefined carbohydrate, and we have 6 ounces of preferably raw fruit, raw low sugar fruit, 2 teaspoons of an unrefined fat or the equivalent in seeds, and then spices. It's a beautifully balanced breakfast. It's not mysterious at all. It's the breakfast that food addicts in recovery have used for ever since Kay Shepherd published her book in 1989. It works. It works great. And people are shocked after they get on that breakfast to find out that that mid-morning slump goes away and the cravings stop. It takes about 4 days to get through withdrawal, but they are not hungry all the time. And so if you don't eat breakfast, or like I'm going to cover an article next week, like I couldn't resist. I saw this article for a breakfast that was billed. The headline said, "This is a breakfast that will keep you satisfied." Absolutely no way. No way. So just make sure you tune in next week and you learn about this article. This is all part of how media deceives us into food addiction. So frankly, I have never seen a media described breakfast that would keep us from cravings. They're all too small, or they're out of balance, or they contain addictive foods. They're all designed to make us crave and eat more. So that's the first way that cravings build up during the day. The second way is to eat lunch too late. So if you have a period where you're not eating and you're hungry, like sometimes people are in jobs and they will suppress hunger until the middle of the afternoon and then finally break to go get lunch. So if you don't eat your lunch 4 or 5 hours after your breakfast, that's another source of cravings. And then if your lunch is too small, it's another source of cravings. So you want 4 ounces of animal protein or 6 ounces of plant protein. You want 6 ounces of starch and 7 ounces of vegetables, preferably some raw, and then your 2 teaspoons of unrefined fat or the equivalent in seeds. And then you do that again for dinner, okay? So you eat a full meal at lunch, you eat a full meal at dinner, and then if you have a stretch during the day, you will have a snack, but a well-balanced snack, a snack that's really satisfying and that will hold you for a couple of hours. And that's 3 ounces of plant protein or 2 ounces of animal protein and 6 ounces of fruit, low sugar fruit, preferably raw. So if you hit your meals on time and you eat full meals, you will be shocked. You will be so happy. You will be so pleased because you will get to into the evening and you will not be craving like crazy. You will start to be able to sleep through the night without getting up during the night to eat. So that's how you stop cravings. And I don't really want you to read this article. The link will be in the blog, and I hope you will sign up for the newsletter and you will get this information right in your own email inbox. You won't have to go anywhere because we will send out an email on Sunday. The newsletter goes out and it will have the links to the articles that I'm talking about, and it will have a summary of the points that I'm making here. So if Sheila will put up the link to sign up for the newsletter, you can get the newsletter. So I hope you guys are getting excited because this is real information. This comes right out of the research. It comes from my 22 years of experience. It comes from listening to thousands of food addicts over those 22 years, and it works. You are finally, this is I would say, the only media outlet where you are going to get research-based information that has been tested out on over many, many years. I tested it out in a prepared meal company and I got these results. Even in people who were not food addicts, they have fewer cravings. So finally, you don't have to rely on something from the New York Times, which is completely missing the point. So I will say something about the New York Times article, which is it really emphasized that weight issues are not our fault and that we are not to be blamed for them. So I think I am grateful to the New York Times for saying that. And I am going to say, I compliment them for saying that. So, unfortunately their answer is like, oh, this is not your fault because you didn't know you had a hormone problem, right? You can just go and get your hormones looked at and examined and evaluated and prescribed for and everything else, and it will not help. As long as you are missing meals or you are eating out of balance. Now, I should add that there's another factor here, which is called cueing. Cueing is just stimulation. It's food stimulation from the environment. So you could hit all your meals perfectly. You could hit them on time. They could be complete meals. You could organize your meals beforehand. And I will mention my book, Dr. Ifland's Food Addicts Meal Prep Manual, which is at Amazon. Tells you how to make all your food in 2 hours on the weekend. Okay, you can do that perfectly. But I will tell you what, if you get home and you've had all your perfect food and you're not craving, and then you open a magazine or a cookbook and you start reading about addictive foods, you will get cravings. So you do also have to do something called cue management. And we talk about this a lot in the Home Addiction Reset program, which will start this Saturday. Okay, so now you know. Now you know. If you've never heard this information before, you have a breakthrough. You have the opportunity to get into a group of people. Now, that's another thing. We cannot do this by ourselves because our survival instincts say you must be doing what the people around you are doing. So we need to, if you're not doing this in a group, then you are experiencing kind of outsider status. You're not in a group, and your survival instincts will panic and say, you must be in a group. You must be in a group. You must be doing what your group is doing. So if you're in something like the HARP to ARC, you're surrounded by people who are doing this, and your survival mechanisms then are working with you. Your mirror neurons are pulling you in the right direction. Mirror neurons do one thing, and they're the most powerful system in the body, other than the survival, the direct survival. Mirror neurons tell you to do what the people around you are doing. So this is one of the reasons why the HARP to ARC works so well. We have those twice a day video chats. We have lots of recorded material, video recordings, and you can persuade your brain that it's safe to eat like we're eating. If you're trying to eat like we're eating, but you're always around people who are eating processed foods, your survival instincts are going to go crazy. They're going to say, no, you have to eat processed foods. Look, everybody around you is eating this way. You have to eat this way. Got to get in a group. You got to get in a group, people that you can see, and then really amazing things happen. Like if you're in a group particularly that's going slowly and giving you lots of time to figure out how these things are going to work in your life, pretty soon you're just regularly making changes and you hardly have to even think about it. You know exactly what to do because the science is telling you, this will work. So you try it and, oh, yes, it does work. It's not somebody's random opinion about what worked for them. It's a real opinion about what worked in a scientific study. Okay. Oh, I'm just enjoying this so much. I love getting this information out. So I'm just super, super excited that you guys are here. So be sure to post your questions and your comments. Okay, here's our next article. So this came from The Guardian in the UK, and I'm just so touched by this article. What this article describes is an effort by a community to reach out to all of its members. So what they did was they noticed that they had pretty high rates of emergency room visits. So that's what they were measuring, emergency room visits. And they really wondered if all of these visits could be reduced, if the distress and the pain could be reduced, if they had community outreach. So they got their community organizations together and they began just including more people, making a big effort to include people in their activities and bring them out of isolation and bring them to events and communicate with them and engage with them. So it was so cool. Their emergency room visits went down by 17% in 1 year. But what was remarkable was that the communities around them, their emergency room visits went up by 29%. So these are emergency room visits for things like heart attacks and strokes and diabetes. So they're lifestyle related. Okay, so I love the article. I think it's straight on in so many ways. Isolation is stressful. Humans do not like to be lonely. Again, it's those survival mechanisms. For hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions of years, people survived because they were inside of a tribe and they were doing what the tribe was doing. So if you're lonely, if you're home alone all the time, your survival instincts are just like, oh, no, 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 no. You're going to die. You're going to die because you need to be around people. Or your mirror neurons will say, oh, those people on television, oh, that must be your tribe. Well, look at them. They're really skinny. So I guess we're supposed to be skinny too. Let's reduce calories, which is a big setup for making food addiction worse. So if people are depending on television, commercial television, for their sense of tribe, that tribe wants you to have food addiction really bad. So you just really got to cut back on the television and eventually phase it out. And then you can replace it with the video chats, the live video chats and the recorded video material that we have at the Home Addiction Reset program. Okay, so I liked the article. I liked the idea. It was so kind to reach out to people and bring them into community. It's exactly what we're doing at the Harp. But what the article missed, of course, is that it's very likely that people were eating less junk food. So when they went to these events, these were community events who were trying to help people be healthy. So unlikely that they were putting out big buffets of junk food. And then the less time that people spend alone, the less they will eat. And especially, as we talked about last week, the less time people spend in front of television, because television is a huge overeating stimulator. So if you've ever wondered why you overeat, just connect the dots. Television, overeating. There's a synergistic effect there. Okay. So I love the article, but the article did leave out the fact that these people were probably eating less processed foods. They were spending less time in front of television, and the article did not make that link. So we're making it. And there you have it. All right. Now, our next article. Oh man, sometimes you just gotta laugh because it's so blatant. Because these articles are just like, yeah, we know we're producing cravings, we're stimulating cravings, we're cueing cravings, we're triggering cravings, but okay, so we're pretending we're writing an article about something else, but we know we're really stimulating cravings. But now you know not to start with this article, because if it's got a big picture of some kind of craving food at the beginning of the article, even if it's in Money Magazine, which is not a health magazine, don't read it. Don't stop there. Just keep going. So this was an article. The premise was so flimsy. The premise was just inconsequential. The content of the article was inconsequential. So you just see that the whole purpose of the article was to stimulate cravings in the readers. Okay, so what was this article about? There is a product, a highly addictive, one of the most highly addictive products out there. And this major grocery store chain, which is one of these big box stores, these horrible places where all the servings, you have to buy vast quantities of something, and then of course you take it home and you eat it. So it's one of these environments that really heavily promotes overeating, promotes the development of food addiction, because the amount of food that you have to buy is so huge, and then you just take it home and you eat it. So that's a huge encouragement, a huge way to encourage overeating. Okay, so I'm not going to name the product because this is a non-triggering show, but it's one of the most highly addictive products out there. And the article was about how this massive grocery store chain is going to take over manufacturing this product itself. So it's going to take the manufacturing in-house, and it's not going to buy this product from the name brand manufacturer anymore. Well, if it were like if it were, a big portion of the store's sales, you might say, oh, this is interesting. So this is likely to have an impact on this massive store's bottom line. All right, since I'm reading Money Magazine, I'm probably interested in making money. I'm some kind of investor. And this is very interesting. This makes me think that I should invest in this grocery store chain because they're taking their profits in-house. So they're taking the profits away from this external manufacturer, this brand name manufacturer, and they're going to make a house brand. I am here to tell you that that is not going to affect their stock price at all. It is not going to affect their earnings. Like maybe you would get an extra penny in your dividend because this is a massive grocery store chain. And by taking this one product in-house, it's just not going to affect their bottom line significantly. So what other reason would Money Magazine have to cover this? Well, because there are these massive, lurid, horrible photographs of this product. So it's triggering. It's there strictly for the purpose of triggering the reader into cravings. All right, I hope we're making sense here. I'm going to pause for a minute. And now I'm going to tell you why. Because we are going to post these segments from this show on Facebook. So not everybody wants to sit and watch a 40 or 50-minute show, but people will stop on Facebook and they will watch something for 10 minutes, maybe even shorter. So we have a wonderful video person on our staff, Julie Bennett, who is going to be cutting these topics into shorter segments, and you will see them on Facebook. They will be in your feed, and you can watch them again. Now, here's what I would really hope. I hope you will watch them with your families. I hope you will watch them with the people who live in your household, because this is a great way to get members of your household on board. So, I mean, a lot of times people don't want to start this food plan because they think, oh, I don't want to make 2 meals. And I want to make 1 meal for me and 1 meal for my family. Gradually over time, you will learn that processed foods are universally harmful. And whether your family has lost control or whether they have a weight gain problem is not the issue. Like you wouldn't give them processed foods the same way you would not give them cigarettes. So, you do want to bring your household on board. You do want this information to be floating around your household. So, when we have the television on, the people in the whole household are influenced by what's on television. The commercials, the underweight actors and actresses, the stressful scripting, all of that stuff. It's there to stress out the whole household and get everybody to overeat. It's very profitable to do that. So I'm going to suggest that you put this programming on in your household and just leave it on and let the people in your household begin to realize that there might be another story. There might be another side to processed foods. Just like it took us decades to realize there's another side to smoking. Now, the cigarette companies really covered that up. But gradually, it came out. It took decades. This is going to take decades. But I know everybody who's listening, you really want to do the best for your household members. So just turn this programming on and let it waft through the air of your home. So that's why I'm now just a little bit late remembering that I should be pausing between segments so that we have the ability to cut them out and then put them on Facebook in shorter segments. Okay. Here's my last segment. And this is on research that's missing. So I watch the research and people send me links to research. And if ever you see an article that you would like my opinion on, or if you see a research report that you would like my opinion on, send it to foodaddictionreset@gmail, and I'll comment on it. I'll either include it in this broadcast or I will comment it on food addiction education. I love explaining things, as you can tell. So here's our last segment. This segment is on an unbelievably important research report that came out of France last week. It shows that processed foods lead to cancer. Okay, this sounds like it would be pretty important. It sounds like it's something that every responsible media outlet ought to be sharing with its readers or viewers or listeners. And until USA Today covered it yesterday, I did not hear or see one media outlet cover this unbelievably important research. So here's how the research was constructed. These are researchers in France at the Sorbonne, and it was a 5-year study. So it's what's called a prospective study. They had people keep a diary for 2 days, and then they analyzed how much processed foods these people were eating, and they predicted, oh, these people who are eating the higher levels of processed foods, they are the ones who will get cancer. And then they waited. They waited 5 years. And indeed, the people who ate more processed food got the cancer. So this is, if there's ever a reason to get processed foods out of your house, there it is. Because we know processed foods are linked to diabetes. We know they're linked to stroke and weight gain and heart disease. We know that. And then here's the study that says you got to put cancer on the list. So we really have grounds to fight. We really have grounds to fight the battle in our households, but very slowly, very gently, just by educating your household members and by making the foods that they do like. So, in my experience with my own household 22 years ago, I gave the list of unprocessed foods to my household members, my 2 daughters and my husband, and I said, just circle the things that you like and I'll make those things. And they did. And I started making those things. They're wonderful things, roast chicken, sweet potato, green beans. Come on, it's terrific food. And they started eating that food and they started getting results. And then we did clear out the house. So I went through my cabinets, anything that had anything on the list of ingredients, I went through once, and then a couple of weeks later, I went through again. And all that stuff just got out of our house. It got into a garbage bag. I did not give it to anybody. I mean, why would you give somebody okay, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to give my cigarettes away? No, you don't want people to have this stuff. So that's the study that I really want you guys to know about. And now you do. So the things that media doesn't cover, you can find out about them here. All right. So if anybody has any comments, I think I can see them on my screen. And if we don't, I am going to wrap this up. Okay. Now, let's just do a quick summary of what we've talked about tonight. Or you might be watching this during the day. So I'm just going to do a quick summary, no matter what time of day it is. So we covered an article in the New York Times that claimed to show that binge eating is due to hormone imbalances and lack of distraction. Binge eating at night, we corrected the New York Times, is due to a buildup of cravings during the day from exposure to cues, exposure to stress, from inadequate or out of balance meals, and from eating addictive foods. So we got that one squared away. Then we talked about the Guardian's article about a wonderful community in the UK that decided to reach out to all of its members, get them engaged, get them into activities to reduce the amount of emergency room visits. And it worked. So I'm very, very excited about this article. Community, community, community. Really, there are only 2 ways to beat food addiction. One is expert education, and the other one is community. You've got to be in a community led by an expert, because this is a really tricky disease. You've got to know exactly where to meet this disease. Okay, so we did gently remind the guardian that the reason why people probably stop going to the emergency room so much is because by being in community, they were spending less time in front of the television eating processed foods. So we got to get the right links. We got to get all the segments of the phenomenon lined up. Then our third article was in Money Magazine. This article was ostensibly about a grocery store chain reducing costs by taking the manufacture of a relatively minor item into home manufacturing. So wouldn't really have a great impact on earnings. The article was clearly an excuse to stimulate food addiction in readers. So even Money Magazine, which is a subsidiary of Time Magazine, and as we mentioned last week, to our horror, Time Magazine has started to advertise cigarettes again. So this is not the media outlet that you really want to go to for your trusted information. And then finally, we covered a study that was published in France last week and not reported on by US media until USA Today reported on it yesterday, showing that processed foods are linked to cancer, that eating processed foods encourages cancer. So that is all I got, guys. So delighted you were here. Just so thrilled that you're getting this information. Really would like to ask you with my whole heart to come to a demonstration that we're having of how the HARP works, the Home Addiction Reset Program. How does it work? So we're having a demonstration on Thursday of this week. So that's tomorrow if you're listening to this live. And you need to sign up. So the sign up link for the demo will be posted below. Sheila will post that. And then we will have another demo on Sunday afternoon for late registrants. The registration for the HARP will close Friday night, and we will start the program on Saturday. But you can register late, and we will have another HARP demo on Sunday afternoon. So lots and lots of ways to get well. So thank you very much for coming. And I will see you next week. This is a weekly program now. I'm so grateful that you're here. Take care. We care about you. Take care.